Hello everyone. I know it's been a minute since I've posted any videos. I've just been super busy, which is not an excuse. I'm going to be sure to make time to get more training videos out there. So I wanted to give a little update. I have an update on Epona, who I've also posted videos on. I'll get that this week. But I wanted to give you an update on Puzzle. So she's doing phenomenal. She is out with the rest of my herd. She is what I would consider gentled at this point. But there's, of course, still a lot of foundation stuff that we need to do, and the big one being picking up her feet. She has a tough time with this. She will hold her feet for like a second or two, and obviously we're working on adding duration to that, so there'll probably be videos continuing to discuss how to do that and teach that. But right now I am just working on trying to get her to actually lift her legs. And I think in the previous video, which was about a month ago, I was doing whip desensitizing with her legs. So that's obviously where I would start with this. But for this session, I was just working on touching legs with my hands, which she's pretty cool with at this point. She doesn't kick out or strike or do anything. But like I said, she has a hard time holding her legs up for extended periods of time. So just working on getting her to pick up the feet, click, and treat. That is all we're doing. And realistically, I'm trying to get it to a point where she doesn't sort of snatch it back, because you might see a few times here that she lifts it, but she kind of takes it away from me, and that's okay. I just don't click and treat that, which is kind of the fun about doing positive reinforcement when you're doing leg work, because if you were using negative, you'd have to hold the leg until the horse stops moving, but kind of puts you in a risky position there, because they will go from sort of snatching to kicking, especially the ones that don't know what you're asking of them, because picking up feet is kind of a weird request. So just working on getting her to lift the leg, and then I am clicking and treating her basically every time she holds it in like a reasonable manner. And yeah, I like to repeat this a few times on each leg. I don't like to change it up too much. I don't go from front, hind. I do the fronts a few times and then the hinds a few times, just to make it really easy for her to get. And we're also working on some drag line work. So I have her sort of ground tying, which she is doing really good with. This is, I think, the nice part about working with the older horses out of holding. Just the older horse out of the wilder and holding, but just like in general, getting them older. It's a little bit easier for them to kind of have some patience, I think. The babies that I've worked with, because I typically work, like, my most common ages are 1 to 3. I don't really have a preference, like anything 10 and under, I think at this point I'm cool with, but yeah, it's funny watching how patient she is, and I haven't done a whole lot of like ground tying training with her. She just genuinely just stands and relaxes. It's so funny how chill this horse has gotten. Like, she is super relaxed and super quiet about stuff, and you're going to see very soon that I'm going to do some tacking up with her for the first time. And she was like, yeah, whatever. But yeah, just working on picking up her feet. So it's sort of repetitive, but for the purposes of sharing as much of this sort of journey with you guys as possible. I know I've missed quite a bit. A lot of it, too, is just really repetitive work, or it's really short sessions that just aren't worth filming. Like, that's kind of what happened with Epona, the buckskin pinto that I got with Puzzle at the same time. I still have her. She's been adopted, but she's going to be staying boarded with me. And her owner's going to work with me, for a while, because she is not gentled yet. She was very, very introverted, and it took a lot of sort of trial and error, which is why we haven't been documenting her series that much. But I will be now that we're kind of on the steady path, and I can, provide some insight on how we got there and all that. So don't worry, Epona videos are coming. I think I don't know if I share this on here, but one of the babies that came in with these girls has also been adopted. So there's a lot of exciting stuff happening. Puzzle will be staying with me, so she is not going to be available for adoption. So just so everybody knows. Yeah, okay. So here we're working on the backup. Now, I do not teach the whole, like flick the line and get them to back up thing. I don't want to scare the crap out of them. So it's very slow and tedious right now. But all I'm doing is I'm applying a little pressure to the halter, and, oftentimes you're going to get that reaction of them sort of throwing their head around, and you just have to kind of wait. And I'm just looking for a shift or a step, and I'm clicking and treating. She's so funny. She struggles with this too. It's like the things that she's great with and the things that she's not great with are like they're on two totally opposite ends of the spectrum. Either she's amazing with things or she's not good at all. It's quite funny. So yeah, I'm just working on getting a shift, a foot, anything. So it's going to be really messy in the beginning, which again is why I wanted to leave this unedited so you guys could see it and see that, it's not going to be perfect. I think maybe we got like one or two like really good backups. Maybe. I don't remember. This was filmed a few days ago. And obviously I'm voiceovering it now, which is why you're not hearing any clicking or anything. But so yeah, you can see her really throwing her head, and she is tall. I mean, I'm only 5'1". She's only 15 hands, but like that's tall for like what I normally get. So she can just like lift that head right over mine. Kind of a little bit of a tricky move there, and I have to sort of reposition her and get her placed better. But I'll kind of work on this every time I film it too, so you guys can see the progression of how this improves. And eventually I won't need to tug on her. She'll understand the cue. But she does not know what I'm asking because I have been trying to reinforce her to let me approach her and all that. So she doesn't really know that now I want her to get out of my space. So now we're learning a little bit of boundaries, I guess you could say. I kind of use that term lightly, but working on, this is sort of just a behavior in and of itself. I don't, ask them to back up constantly. So just trying to get her to do some foundation stuff. Walking, backing is good. Spinning is good. Eventually we'll work on sending out. I did a little bit. She can just get a little bit kind of frozen with the flag. She just gets like, not even frozen, but she gets a little kind of revved up about it. So I want to just keep reinforcing the trust and the relationship building part, especially now that she's out in 5-foot fencing, out in a much larger space. She comes up to me immediately. I can halter her. Like, she's not hard to catch at all. But I just really want to make sure we're basically, making sure our trust is there and we're not going to have any issues, secondary issues going forward. And once she's feeling more comfortable, that's when I really start to introduce a lot more pressure for like lunging and all that sort of stuff. All right, so I figured why not put on the bareback pad. I have put a saddle and a saddle pad on her, not cinched or anything. But I have put that on her before, and she was fine. That was like well before I could even halter her, which was the funny part. And that's kind of the way it is with Mustangs. Sometimes you got to do things out of order. I actually made a post about that the other day, and a couple of my friends were like, yeah, we can like trim. I could trim and do other stuff before I could put a halter on them. And it's like, it's so true. Like sometimes things are just like out of order. And that's sort of the case with Epona. We finally got her tag off, but like there's so much that we can do with her, but she's still so sort of shut down and internalized. It's like a lot to unpack with her. So haltering is like not even in the question yet. And then you have Puzzle doing all these things. Like it varies so much. And to, on top of that, Puzzle's older. Like she's older. She's 8 and Epona's 5. So, the older they get, the harder they are isn't always the case either. Like it's so dependent on the horse that you're working with. All right. So she was great for that. I can't remember if I went to, yes, I did. Okay. So I am tying her. I decided I wasn't going to actually attach the bareback pad on her, which is why I just threw it over. But then I changed my mind. She does have a few bite marks from one of my other geldings right along her back, which is why I was like, I don't know if I want to attach this, but they were a little bit older. But if you saw her kind of flinch a little bit, I accidentally touched it with the shedding comb. It's healing. It's like not anything crazy, but it was enough for me to be like, I don't know if I want to do this, but I did change my mind. So working on tying, I have her on the blocker tie, and I do want to just keep reinforcing the good behavior, and eventually they won't need to be reinforced for everything. That's sort of kind of, more foundation work for R+, is just teaching the important skills, and then adding duration to it is a key element. So I'm not going to be clicking and treating her for every little thing. It's sort of like every time I would click and treat her when I touched her. Now I don't need to do that. So eventually we fade out a lot of that and shape it into kind of longer term behaviors. But especially because she's tied, this is a new thing for her. I want to just make sure that she is having a lot of positive associations with all this stuff so she doesn't start to get funky about it. And of course, I use minimal pressure as the degree that I can, but it's important that the horses know pressure, and they understand it. So she obviously leads with the halter and the lead rope, like she can wear stuff. You're about to see it be attached to her, so like the pressure around her belly was nothing to freak out about. Like, they know pressure just because I don't use, negative reinforcement as strongly, especially in the beginning. It doesn't mean that they can't function and, they absolutely can respond to pressure. So I just want to make a note of that. But yeah, she's doing so good, just sort of standing. And I like to reinforce for a lot of stuff, like the cinch. And I think I walk her like this. I do, okay. I like to do this. I like to walk them when the cinch is hanging because it hits their legs and they have to get used to stuff that way. I think I was letting her, eat. There we go. Now we're walking. This is the only problem with the voiceover. When I'm there just speaking, it's easier for me to know what I'm doing, but when I'm voiceovering this later, I'm like, what did I do next? But she did really good with that, so I think I decide to... Yep, okay. So one thing I do when I cinch for the first time is when I go to tighten it, I click so that they do not panic about something tightening around them. The click just, again, reinforces that whatever they're doing is correct, and it kind of triggers the brain to not be reactive about certain things, especially on the timing of the click. So I always click when I'm putting on a green horse cinch or girth, that they, as that pressure increases on them and it starts to hug them, that's when I click and treat so that they don't get funky about it. But she did so good. We go for our little pony walk. And I do like to keep them on a line as well when I do this. That way, if they do panic, I can at least try to quiet them and calm them. I might even say put her on a lunge line, but because we're still working on drag lines, I didn't want something as long. Worst case, I let go. We're in a 8-foot round pen, she can't get out. And I doubt she would. But yeah, she did really, really nice. So we just walked around a bit. She's great. Sometimes she can be a little head shy still, but it's so much better. And I say head shy, I mean once every 2 weeks she twitches her head a little bit. So it's definitely significantly lower than what it used to be. I could not touch her. If you guys remember, I don't think I had a lot of it on here. But if you saw on Facebook, I've had videos of her pinning her ears at me and all that. She was not having it with the head and the neck touch for a while. It took me so long to get her tag off. But she's definitely over that now. And that, the whole guarding of their bodies and stuff comes from anxiety and nervousness. So if you have a horse that's almost a smidge aggressive and you're working with them and they're trying to charge you out of their space, or they're getting their posturing is a term I use a lot, and they start to get this higher headset and their neck gets thicker because they have a stronger neck position. That's posturing, and that could be a sign that they're, obviously, they might do something to you. But that's very clearly a nervousness and anxiety thing. And a lot of times that sort of aggressive, quote-unquote, tendencies vanish once they feel comfortable. And, that's the thing that happened with Epona, too. She would try to push me out of her space, and she pinned her ears a lot and did, the little head bob. And finally, now that she's feeling more comfortable, she's not doing that anymore, at all. So it's really nice to see the emotional shift there. So yeah, so she was really good for that. So I don't like to do too much, especially like I said, because she's got a couple cuts on her back. I didn't want to have something rub weird. So we're just going back to feet now. because I also don't like to drill stuff. I don't want to do something for like an hour on repeat. It has its pros and cons to do that. Like, obviously, you got to get to a certain point. But because she did well for, like, the first time I picked up her feet, I wanted to give her a break. And then we're going to do it, we do it again here. Just to sort of, like, reiterate the goal. She is so funny. Just watching her back. Like, she is so food motivated. It's crazy. And this foot, which is the longest foot, her longest toe, is the one that she does this with. So I do try to hold her for a minute, and then I try to reinforce her when she quiets a little bit. Does not need to be perfect. I am not looking for perfection in any capacity. I mostly just want her to lift her leg and hold it for a second, or maybe two or 3 seconds. Like, I don't need her to hold it for me to trim it. I've nipped a bit of it off, like her right front. No, it was her left front that I nipped some off. Yeah, her left front. Because that's the foot that's just long. Like, super, super long. So, like, her feet are obviously still long. They need to be done. But I can't focus on just that. Like, I have to do some other stuff, too. And it'll sort of all piece together. I think I'm just playing with her face at this point. Just getting her used to a bunch of stuff. I think that's it for this session. So there'll be more this week, I promise.